it's hard to tell the difference, but a lot of women like will misinterpret control for care.
Yeah.
Where they're not, you know, it's like, oh well, you know, they're just doing it for me. They're doing it to help me. You have to have full knowledge before you can really consent to anything. Like if you don't know how to read control, you're not really consenting to it. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Pink Pill. I am your host, Jamie Lynn, and I have Miss Abby Ballin with me today. Welcome to Pink Pill, girl.
Yes, thanks for having me so much.
So I got to ask you, is Ballin like your last name, or is that just a fly Instagram handle that you use?
I love that people think I'm that obnoxious that I would name myself Abby Ballin because it's big shoes. I had to live. No, it's my name. I was born with it.
I think that is so cool. I kind of suspected that was your real name, but I was like, I don't know. She's kind of a comedian too. So that's another thing that you do, right? So I want my guests to get to know you a little bit. So you're a comedian. You're also a photographer. And I've seen you do some podcast work as well.
Yeah. So I recently started a podcast, but I've been on, we have a mutual friend, Mac.
Yeah, Mac was here. And yeah.
So that was our intro, little scissor sister moment. We got in there together. And I love Mac. She's awesome. So she introduced me to you and showed me what you were doing, which I love because I love anything like bad bitch energy.
I'm about that for sure. I loved your energy too when I have to screen people now because when I first started this, I was like, I wasn't screening people and I was like, I think this would be great. And then I ended up getting a few people on. I was like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. But I loved your energy right off the bat. You have a very big personality.
Huge.
And can we get a view of the outfit, man?
Yes.
This is all the vibes, right?
Watch out.
Yeah, that's one of my fucking favorite dance moves that I do. It's absolutely ridiculous, but it's like this.
Oh, you went old school with it.
It's hot. It's a party every time I'm there.
I can see it. The chicken, there's a name for this.
It's called the mashed, no wait, that's not the mashed potato.
Mashed potato.
Do you know what it is, Chase?
Is it the Charlie Brown or something like that?
No, is it the Charlie Brown?
I thought it was the Charlie Brown.
Maybe it's the Charlie Brown.
I feel like
don't know.
I've seen this in the Cha-Cha slide at some point or another.
Probably.
Really?
Yeah. Coolest dance moves. And it was so funny because when we were doing the intro, you stole one of my dance moves.
No way.
Yeah, you did. And I was like, oh my God, kindred spirit.
What was your dance
move? So it's all about the elbows. I throw bows.
Oh, yeah. But I also when we're tight like this, we don't have a lot of movement.
Yeah.
I do what I would do with my arms with my fingers. Okay. So I'm when you would go like this, I'm like, yeah.
It's kind of were you ever in cheer or anything like that?
I tried everything. I feel like I did, but I did a lot of dance. I was more in the hip hop modern world.
Because in dance when you don't want to go full out, you're just kind of you do little baby movements. That's what that's what the fingers remind me of.
Totally. It's definitely that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you are the only person, if this is Charlie Brown, who made it cool. Because I feel like that's
it's really not that cool.
It's not. It's a dork move. And you do not give off dork vibes.
I'm pretty dorky. Yeah, pretty nerdy.
I like that though.
Yeah, I think people that know me outside of this think I'm a big fat nerd. Yeah.
That's sexy nowadays though.
I guess so, yeah. I just need glasses. Then maybe I'll pull it off. You know what? My boyfriend actually got glasses. They're not prescription. They're just sexy.
Yeah.
And I tried them on. They're hot.
Yeah.
I love them.
They are hot.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of guys doing that these days, wearing the
it's like a style.
It's a style.
I'm about it, though. I like it.
Honestly, we're all faking it, right?
Yeah.
We're all...
Well, I think it's just about, it's just about what you like. Why do we have, who cares if you don't have prescription? If you like it and you think it looks nice, why not wear it?
And I've seen the ones with a little tint. So it's we all wear sunglasses.
Yeah.
And I'm sure in some way it's protecting your eyes too.
Yeah. Or it's what's the difference between that and somebody wearing their sunglasses inside?
Well, that's a big difference.
You think so?
I think it's a little shady wearing your sunglasses.
Is it shady?
Shady. It's a little shady now. It's all right. It's you are hiding something. You had a long night. And I feel it. I've done it.
And so you live in Miami too, and you're just, what are you out here for in Vegas?
So I'm shooting a basically new campaign for a business called Las Vegas Bachelorette. So they're a party planning bachelorette service, which is really so smart because how many people come to Las Vegas for your bachelorette?
I mean, literally everybody. That's a huge moneymaker out here.
Such a moneymaker. So it's just all about the themes, and girls love themes nowadays.
Yeah.
And they love the photo op moments. And so instead of packing all your stuff or like having to spend your first day going and getting all the stuff. They do it for you. They set it all up. So
Oh, that's so nice to
it's
take
so
away the
smart.
hassle.
It's
Yeah.
so nice. I love it. I love the
One-stop
whole thing.
shopping.
Totally.
They need to do that for divorce parties too. Do they do that, you think?
I think it probably will be next.
Yeah, like bride and then divorced. You know?
Why not do it for everything?
Yeah.
Like, just do it. I love the divorce party, though. I'm here for a divorce.
I've seen a lot of people like trash divorce parties because it's like, oh, you're promoting divorce. And it's like, not always. Like, you know, not everybody was in a healthy relationship, you know? And so it's not like they're celebrating like, oh, I hate this person, not necessarily, but it's kind of like a freedom in a way. It's not always so negative.
I think just celebrating a new chapter.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Whether it was a good or bad or whatever, it's like we should have these moments where we celebrate something other than just our birth or just a holiday that's on the calendar already. But
Yeah,
like
I
having a
agree.
moment like when you get in like the new house or I don't know why we don't celebrate the job promotions or the new business. Like I feel like no one's really going after when you challenged yourself or did something where you put yourself in like a scary arena and you succeeded. Like I
Why do
feel
you
like
think that is? Like, is it just kind of to be expected, or do you think that maybe like sometimes I think it might be like, you know, sometimes it's difficult for people to celebrate other people's success.
that was my first thought. My first thought is like they'd almost rather celebrate a divorce party than a successful business launch.
Kind of like Misery Loves Company, or yeah.
Yeah. And I do think that bachelorettes, people are happy to celebrate like a wedding, but it's almost like so ingrained in the culture that you kind of have to. And I feel like there's a lot of things around the bachelorette where people are kind of like annoyed because the work that goes into it. So the nice thing about this is like it's taking away some of the reasons why people are dreading a bachelorette and making it fun because it's supposed to be fun. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be like a celebratory thing and not work.
Well, you know, speaking of relationship and kind of switching gears on you a
Yeah.
little bit, you and I got a chance to kind of talk a little bit, and I got to know a little bit about some things that you've been through. And I mean, when you started opening up and sharing, I was pretty blown away by some of the things that you had mentioned. And like, let me ask you: Are you single? Are you dating? Are you in a relationship right now?
I'm private.
Okay, okay.
I'm private only because I've had so many. I had a very public relationship
Okay.
that went public when I didn't necessarily wasn't ready for it to go
Okay.
public. Didn't really feel like I had the choice, and so that was like what kind of started it. And then another relationship that just wasn't very healthy, and I feel like I stayed in that one way too long. So I feel like now I'm just kind of like, it's mine. I want to, whatever was
It's
going
sacred
on with
to you.
me
Yeah.
is mine. And I just kind of want to protect myself and what I put out there. So I'm definitely very open and I love talking about, like, I feel like I'm nervous to say I'm private because people will be like, oh, she's walled, she's got her boundary, you know, but it's just kind of setting a little boundary for
Well,
right
I think,
now.
look, I think boundaries are okay. And I
Yeah.
think that you should because not everybody's comfortable sharing certain aspects of their
Mm-hmm.
life. And that's okay. Like, I think that those things, you're the holder of that information,
Mm-hmm.
right? People can ask, but you don't have to answer. And I think, look, I think people that actually care about you or that are healthy minded, they can respect that. They like these things aren't offensive to people that have healthy minds.
Yeah.
They're only offensive to people that don't really.
Yeah.
But you did tell me that you were in a 7-year relationship and that you had lost that person. And I wanted to like grief is not something that I've touched on in this show at all. And I do a lot of red pill stuff here, but I'm also a mental health therapist. And I thought that this would be a good conversation for people to listen in on because you went through some challenges kind of and like, can you tell me a little bit about how that relationship started for you?
So I entered that relationship very young, at like 22. So, and obviously I'd had some relationships prior, but very young and
Yeah.
not very long. So this was like my first very long-term relationship because it lasted 7 years. It lasted almost my entire 20s. And so when I had met, his name was Matt, when I had met him, it was one of those things where we felt like we had known each other in like another life. Like our first date was a 7-hour date. that we couldn't stop talking. And we just walked around the city, sat on this bench, had a coffee here, ate here, like just walked and talked and sat. And when do you do that? When do you just like have a date where you just can't stop talking to the person?
Did you feel like it was kind of like an instant connection between you two?
Yeah, I mean, we had known each other. We had a mutual friend, and we had talked to each other like prior. But like the first like actual date was just like, it was like family. It was like meeting
like familiar.
Yeah, meeting family, and just very similar types of people, being very open from the start and very willing to be vulnerable, I guess, and not as walled, which is funny because now I'm putting on the protector, but I feel like when I was younger, I was way more free.
Well, that's the beauty that comes with youth, right? Where none of us are jaded yet.
Yeah.
Well, most of us, you know.
No, there is something nice when you look at people who get into relationships when they're young, and like what does happen when you grow with somebody and you're still growing yourself, and there's something so sweet about that because it is innocent in so many ways and so much discovery, and you're bonded in this different way than when you're more fully formed as a person, and then you enter into a relationship, which sometimes, like the logical sense, makes me think that would be a stronger relationship because now you're a person. Now you know how to advocate for yourself. Now you know how to...
What you really like, too.
What you really like, who you are, what you want, all these things. But I think there's beauty in both.
I do too. I like, you know, whatever path you choose is like, that's the journey that you're on. And I can see pluses and minuses with anything, but you know, that's you can apply that to any decision you make in life. You lost your partner though. And how long ago was that?
So Matt passed February 9th, 2017.
So you're kind of coming up on the...
Yeah, we're coming up on what would be... Math is not my strong suit, but
Mine
we're in
either.
2024 now, so 7 years.
Yeah.
It's a lot of sevens right now, 777.
You know, that's like the lucky number, and you're in Vegas, baby.
Oh my God. So many signs are pointing to I should gamble. And Matt was a gambler.
Maybe you should. Maybe you should.
So
I would bet on 7.
So he was a gambler, and I actually have some of his poker chips that
really
I brought.
Did you bring them?
I brought them, and I'm planning on putting,
you should go. I think you should.
I know.
Lucky number 7.
I know. I remember when we first started dating, he brought me to Vegas, and I was like, never really been to Vegas, and I was like, this is sexy, you know, like there's so much like danger and just like there's like an element of danger and sexy and wrong, and I loved it. And then he was like, let's go back next month and let's go back. And I was like, oh, there's a problem here. And then I realized, this is your thing, not my thing. So he definitely he loved Vegas way more than I love Vegas. He loved that. But he was super lucky. He would win. So it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, if you're winning, how do you tell someone not to do it?
For me, I'm a terrible gambler because I'm like, if I'm like a nickel machine, and then I'm like, I give myself like a $1 limit.
Yeah. I pretty much say like, I'm only putting this amount of down, and if I lose it, like I'm out. I'm not putting any more, and if I win, I'm out too. It's basically like you have this much to play and quick in and out. But
because I always think like in my mind, I'm like, I had to work this many hours to get that money. Like that's always what it goes to, and I'm like, I'd rather have a pair of shoes that I know I'm leaving with. You know,
it just feels like. I mean, we were talking earlier about magic, so it's hard for me to be like, why wouldn't there be some luck too and the fun of it? But
I think there is. I really do. But I believe we both believe in that. We're both like dreamers in a sense, you know.
Yeah. It's funny. I dance between the dreaming and the reality.
The logical.
Yeah, the logical. And I play with the two, but I never let go of the dreamer because it would be so sad to live life with everything that's going on without it.
Like we have to have a reprieve, I think. There's enough going on in the world that's so negative and so down. Like we have to have laughter, we have to have joy, we have to have hope, and we have to dream. Like the world is hard enough. We all need a break.
Yeah, that's why comedy came in for me. So I started doing comedy actually because my mom tried to kill my dad.
What?
Yeah, but it was hilarious. I know, I know it sounds too bad, but it was really funny, and I was like, "Oh, cool."
Wait, did she actually really try to kill him?
She
or?
tried.
Okay.
But she has dementia, so she
Okay.
had an alibi. You know, she
Okay.
she had an excuse.
Okay.
But
did she like not recognize him or thought he was like an intruder?
I just think there's a part of her that they fought a lot.
Okay.
They fought a lot. And I think the memories that she kept of him, a lot of them are very angry. She's very mad at him. And it happens a lot with people with dementia. They can get violent and stuff.
I have seen that. I did have a family
Yeah.
member that had dementia too. You
Yeah.
know, the thing with memory is that the long-term memory stores the strongest emotional response. So whatever is the strong, like positive or negative.
Yeah.
So if there were strong emotional experiences, like that doesn't go away.
Yeah. So that part's not funny, but she tried with a plate, and I feel like that's very Looney Tune, you know, like it feels like, you know,
Okay.
it felt very silly. It's like of all the things she it was, sorry, not a plate, a pot.
Oh,
like,
a pot.
Like
Okay.
smashing a pot. It was very
Okay.
like, you know, like I feel
It's
like
very
Bugs
like
Bunny.
like where they have like the thing and they
The
smash it
frying
over.
pan.
Yeah,
It was
exactly.
very innocent and funny. And so I thought it was funny. And also I was just needed an outlet for all their drama and what was going on with my mom and just stuff, that grief from Matt and all that. I just felt like
Was that all happening around the same time?
shortly. I mean, I feel like Matt had passed in 2019 and 2017. My mom tried to kill my dad in like 2018 or something like
Oh, it's
that.
back to back.
Yeah, it was very
Yeah.
close. But I feel like in general, I didn't get a lot of breaks from some serious trauma and drama from very young till kind of even recently. I had a friend just kill herself yesterday. So
Oh my God.
I know. I don't even know how to, but it's like this is kind of, I think when you open your arms to a lot of people and let them in, and you're okay with who they are and who they show up as, no matter what that looks like, you're gonna see a lot. You're gonna feel a lot. And a lot of it is gonna be heavy because that is what's in humanity. And so I think a lot of people like immediately, like, oh my God, the shock. And it is shocking. I'm still shocked. I can't believe that this is real because I found out the minute I landed off the
Oh my
plane. So I
God.
haven't even been able to fully
You haven't been able to process it yet.
process it. But this is not the first person I've lost to suicide. This is not the first person I've lost to any sort of accidental death. I feel like most of my deaths, people I know that I've lost, have been abrupt. Haven't been a lot of like time to prepare and realize they're gonna go. It's always
Sometimes
been ripped. So
Sometimes I feel like that's the hardest way to process grief is when when it's sudden, because there's no way your brain can wrap it. Your reality is still stuck in the past.
yeah.
And you can't, you wake up and you see everybody and your brain can't understand that that's not there anymore. And it takes so much time for that to settle in. And you just, you go into shock, really. And your brain does that because it's smart, because if you were fully present, it wouldn't be able to really withstand that emotional trauma in that moment.
No, 100%. It's one of the reasons why it's like I almost feel everything in doses. So I'm like, okay, now is my time. I'm going to give myself to feel whatever it is, but sit with myself, give myself this time to cry, to think, to be quiet, to scream, whatever is coming up. But then it's like, okay, now project. Now what can I put in front of me that is an actionable to do? Whether it's get in my mind, get in my creativity, get into my body is huge, like get active. I feel like really has helped me through all different stages of grief is like, how do I not always have to get in my heart or my head? But if you get in your body, I feel like grief gets stuck in so many different places. And if you don't move, sweat, all that stuff, it's in there.
Well, I mean, I can't believe you're here. First of all, after what you just, and I'm really sorry for your loss. Like that's heartbreaking for you.
Oh, it is. And I one of those things where it's like I debated saying something or even warning you, and I didn't know if I was going to say something.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like it's in the back of my head, so it's like there's no way it's not going to come up. But I just I could literally repeat so many things. This is just one of many losses and tragedies that shouldn't happen. And I feel like one of the reasons why I started my podcast that was about grief was people shy away from it. It's an unsexy topic. People feel it and they're like, I don't want to talk about it, but it's part of life and it is hard. And I feel like because I've experienced it so much that I just know how to deal with it. Like for me, everyone deals with it differently. But for me, it is very much about giving yourself time to connect with the person, connect with yourself, and to do something with it. So whether that means honoring their memory, so I'm going to do a charity show for her and help raise money, and that's one thing. But also just talking about her. She was the sweetest human being on the planet. Too sweet.
Like honoring her memory.
Too sweet. You know what I mean? And she should be talked about, and she deserves to be remembered, even if I can't believe she's not here. Like, to me, I'm like, still like, I'm going to get home and this is going to be a really bad prank. You know, like, it's too fresh to be real. But, I mean, yeah, I could depress every one of your listeners right now with a lot of stuff. But that's not necessarily what I even want to do because I'm not really a depressed person. That's my thing is like I feel like I've found avenues to dance through it, to find humor. A lot of times I laugh, like grief is laugh.
Humor can be healing, but it can also be stunting too. There's a balance to it. But I think, I think the levity absolutely helps. And I think there's an aspect to that that's healing. Like what you described a little bit ago was a lot of like release stuff, like doing something physically, talking about it, like sweating, like healing happens through release. And when you mentioned feeling like something stuck in your body, like there's a great book actually called The Body Keeps the Score. Ooh. And it's about, you would love it. I was actually trauma certified under him. And he talks about how your body holds memory and how your body holds trauma. That's why when you do things like yoga, sometimes, I don't know if you've ever done it before, but the instructor will say, look, if you're in certain poses, you might become emotional. And people don't know why. That's because that memory is there. Like,
they say in the hips a lot. You hold
for
a
women,
lot of emotion.
For women.
But I feel like everything's in my back. It's all my
like
tense. All my tense. That's where I hold all my everything. But yeah, life is, to me, the whole thing I learned with grief was it's the love. So the more you feel it, it's really you're feeling the love that's there that you can't reciprocate. You can't feel it in the same way anymore from that person. But it's not so scary when you realize that. You're like, wow, how beautiful. How beautiful that I loved someone this much and they love me that much.
I think that's such a beautiful perspective you have like on that. When I work with people, one of the challenges, and I want to know your thoughts on this, that I see is people can get stuck in their grief and they feel guilty for laughing or they feel guilty for experiencing happiness. Like after somebody passes away that they love dearly, and then they go and they start having fun and they feel guilty. They feel like they're not allowed to have fun. What did you ever struggle with that or feel that way?
I think I was very lucky. So Matt and I had suffered trauma and tragedy and loss together before he passed. It's one of the reasons why he passed. He just couldn't really handle it. He ended up getting sick. He died naturally, but he didn't want to be here anymore. And I do believe that there's like,
did you feel like he was he thinking of ending his life or?
Oh yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'm like, he had lost, I mean, how dark are we getting on this podcast? Are we being?
Well, like, I think answer what you're comfortable answering, right? But just speak your truth.
Yeah, I mean, it's out there. Like, you can Google me and it's out there. So one of the reasons why I said, like, I wasn't ready for it was Matt had lost his daughters, his young daughters that were, like, my family. And it was big news. And it was one of those things where
he lost them, like,
in a fire. So they passed away.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
So that happened when I was 24.
Oh my God. And you're 24 managing this.
So I spent the next like 5 years keeping him alive. Actually, so 22, he died when I was 20. Maybe I'm not even doing math right because time was a blur. My 20s was very much focused on him, not so much on me. And very much, how do I keep this? I already lost these 3 little girls. How do I keep him here? And we started a foundation. I was immediately like, we have to have an action. We need to do something with this. And I don't know what in my soul like told me that, but something was like, you have to do something. He's going to go. Like, you're going to lose him next.
Wow.
And so it was and I think it came from, I had parents that had some addiction stuff. So I think it was very much like, make them happy, please. Misdirect a lot of that stuff to keep the calm, keep the peace.
Keep the peace, yeah.
And so I feel like that was actually very beneficial. Like, I feel like a lot of times you can look at trauma and things that maybe weren't the most, like, not something that is desirable. Like, it's maybe not the most desirable childhood to grow up with an alcoholic mother and an addictive father. But the life skills you get from that and other elements of it actually served me very well for other things in my life. So granted, I would change some things, but not really. I still love my parents very much. They were battling their own things. And that's kind of what I look as, how we're all battling something.
Yeah.
And can you have empathy and compassion for each and every one of us, And so Matt was going through so much. I think when he passed, it was so, so hard. And for so many reasons. I'd never actually watched someone pass, and I watched him pass. So that was like actually so beautiful, but obviously something changes you. But there was a piece to it of just he finally could let go. He couldn't. And that's the thing, I think, when I look at certain people's suicide too, it's like, it is a choice. Some of us can't be here. Some of us can't do it. And I think it really bothers me when they're young and they didn't give themselves enough chance and a shot at it, because everyone needs time. In the moment, yeah, something terrible happens. You hurt yourself, you cut yourself, you want to scream, you want to cry, you want to yell at someone, throw something. But in time, it heals, And I think everyone needs time. So when young people make that decision, it's a huge, major decision. I think it's too soon. And that's what hurts me. But if, like, you've lived your life, you fought, you tried. Matt tried so many different ways. And he actually did try to take his life many times, and he wasn't successful. And eventually his body he got pneumonia very young, and he went. But I think it really was just like his time for his soul was ready to let him go and not have to live with the pain anymore.
I think that there's something really sacred when you're with somebody and they pass, because it's almost like they're waiting for you. It's and you're like almost in a way like a guide ushering into the next phase. He's clearly been through a lot, and you've been through a lot, and I can't not everybody is as resilient as you, though. I hear what you're saying is when you're like, I benefited from it. I made the most of it. But some people can't do that either.
No.
Some people will, they'll, and I'm glad that you didn't do this, but some people will get married to their pain. And they can only see the world through that lens. And it's really difficult to heal yourself. It's really challenging to do that and to take ownership of the healing process, because it's really easy when you've been wounded and you're right in that to just say, fuck it, I don't want to do anything else. It's really tough when you've been victimized by people, because you're a victim of this as well. Like to witness the violence in your home, it sounds like, and to have had to have been the peacekeeper and the savior, like that's a role that you should have never been in, and absolutely had a trickle down effect on you, and you could have easily have just thrown in the towel yourself.
Yeah. And I think I knew that was an option, and I guess some people just have a little bit more fight in them than others, and I think ultimately I really never wanted to be a victim ever in life. Like, to me, I think I experienced a lot because of my household, and I don't know. I think I just looked at it like this is a part of life, even though maybe I shouldn't have had to experience that so young and it shouldn't have been a part of life. But I learned from it that it was. And there's also another part of life. Like, of course, there was trauma with my parents, but my parents were hilarious and super affectionate. Like, there was a other side of things that I really loved that was super beautiful, and they were a good time. They were party people. It was always a good time, you know, until it wasn't. So I did have a lot of great, you know, gratitude for my life. And yeah, I think some people can. I think it's really a lens of, can you separate things? I think they've been really good at compartmentalizing. And a lot of it came from talking to other people with similar stories and how do they affect. And I do think there was a period where, yeah, I went down a dark path. You're a teenager, you're trying to deal with stuff. But I got that out of the way, I think, early enough. And I think I saw how unattractive it was, as much as that seems so trivial in comparison to what's happening. But I think especially as a woman, when you're used to like wanting to be pretty, wanting to be attractive, and then like catching that glare of like, oh, I look like a hot mess. Like I wore a hat every day for a year because I didn't want to do my hair, you know, like it wasn't cute anymore. And I think someone told me I had some therapy, which is huge. And she said, you're punishing yourself a lot for your parents' problems. And I think you actually like yourself. I don't think you have a problem with you. You're upset about everything else that's going around you. But you like yourself. So why are you being mean to yourself? Why are you hurting yourself? And I was like, yeah. Why? Why am I doing that?
Yes.
And then and then I was like, yeah, this is your problem. I can identify this as you. Now let's not make this about me so much, you know?
Kids are so good at doing that, and so are young adults, that when they experience abuse or they are mistreated or experience rejection, what people are really good at doing is personalizing that. And it is a skill set to say, like you said, this is your stuff, this is my stuff, and not personalize the actions of other people. Really, other people's responses, the way that they behave, don't really have anything to do with you. It's stuff that they've got going on that they haven't, you know, they don't know how to cope with. And then they put that and project that onto you. After after he passed away, how, like, it sounds like you did, you know, you went to therapy, you did some healing work on yourself, but when did you start kind of dating again?
So let me backtrack. I didn't do a lot of therapy after.
Okay.
Because I had done a lot of therapy as a young adult.
Okay.
With my family stuff. And I actually had my therapist, I don't know, I kind of got a little betrayed by my therapist. And it's not her fault, but I think she broke the therapist rule of the walls and stuff. And she was kind of showing up to me as like a maternal figure, and then pulled it away and like took it away from me.
What happened?
Well, basically, she was my therapist on and off for like teenage into early 20s. And I guess it was around the same time where I wanted to start setting boundaries for my parents. And when I started setting boundaries with my parents, they didn't like that. So I guess my father had threatened her, and she was like, I can't see you anymore, which
Threatened the therapist?
yeah.
Okay.
So I feel like that was understandable why she pulled away. So I got it, but it was still like very harsh and abrupt. But then after the girls passed, I went to go see her, and she was like, basically like, I can't help you. And I was just
wow,
like,
really?
that was
Did she
like,
say why?
she was just like, it's too much. It was too much for her. And that was just heartbreaking on top of heartbreak, that I was just like, fuck this. And
Here
I
you are trying to get help, and you like your source of comfort, the thing that has helped you, isn't available.
Yeah, that really sucked. But really what helped me with a lot of this stuff, and with Matt, and I had started it before he had passed, was ayahuasca. I don't know if you talk or do anything with
I've
that.
never tried ayahuasca. I know a bunch of people that have. I've heard positive experience, but I also treated a woman that had PTSD from it.
Yeah.
She had a bad trip. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's all about who is your guide and who's the shaman, who's the help, because there's also a really culty some not so great stuff going
Yeah.
on in those communities.
Okay.
So you have to be careful with which communities you're going to. Really talk to them, and it's everything's case to case. What works
I
for
think,
one
yeah,
person
and I
is
think,
not going to work, but I do think there
yeah.
is something about a chemical rewiring that I really felt happened for me, and ever since that happened for me, I feel like I could kind of process everything. I feel
Okay.
like that's when things were more I was more able to look at things with a logical lens more.
Was it pretty instant, like right, like after you kind of came out of that, or was it more of like a gradual
It was
progression?
gradual because it was also like I had done ayahuasca and then I did a few other kind of things that were in that same field of trying to like use psychedelics for healing and therapy. And I did that over a course of a year spaced out, so maybe only 3 or 4 times. And then I kind of felt like, oh, I feel good. I feel like I can do. And similarly with therapy, I felt like I could hear the therapist's voice. I can hear the questions. And I feel like that's kind of what it's like. You need to find your own voice and your own balance and
Yeah.
center. And I felt like I got that. And I always
Yeah.
like to like, okay, I did this now. Doesn't mean I might not need to revisit it, but let's move forward. Let's not like dwell and
Yeah,
stay.
there
Let's
has to be
yeah.
there has to be a shift when you get support from the support versus doing it for yourself, right? Because any kind of support you can't become dependent on, because that just becomes the crutch, right? You have to become resilient and you have to be an overcomer of your circumstances. Um, did you take a break from dating for a while after that?
I took a break, but so one thing that was somewhat, you had said a question earlier and then I went off in a whole other way, but Matt had a lot of humor. And even though we had had that loss that we experienced together, obviously different relationships, but both experiencing loss. So we were bonded in figuring out grieving together, even though he had already lost his mother, he had lost his brother, he had had other big losses in his life before, but there's nothing like this. So we still laughed. We still had found ways of laugh because he had a good sense of humor and I did. And we knew how important that was, regardless of how sad. You had to laugh. You had to find some sort of humor. Maybe not in that situation, but in something. So I do feel like after Matt had passed, I had waited. I never was looking for anything. I didn't want to get into anything. But I also could kind of like hear him. Like he was not somebody I'd think would be like mad at me if I were to see somebody. He would really just want me to be happy.
Yeah.
And I think I was very like also like a very kind of like sexual person. And I feel like that aspect had kind of like been ripped away for many years because of all the depression.
Yeah.
So I feel like I was kind of really dying for that to like have like a sexual exploration because I'd also like dated women before Matt and then I didn't date women all that time. So I feel like I wanted to date women again. I wanted to date men. I wanted to just kind of just feel anything other than the sadness. And so that meant sex, that meant partying, that meant trips and different things, times with friends, just anything that was a distraction. And I did end up getting into a relationship within like a year after he passed, which I didn't mean for that to happen. But it happened, and I think that, you know, I think a lot of it is like, where are you at in your life? And because I was in such a like weak point, but also such a free point, I was also very vulnerable to like someone else making the decision, like we're going to be in a relationship now, when I don't think I would have necessarily been like, yeah, this is a great time for me to be making that choice of like committing to somebody else right now.
Had you known this person? Like, were they like, or like for a while, or was it somebody that you were familiar with, or was it kind of like
it was like somebody who I had met on vacation
Okay.
and like it was supposed to be fun. It was supposed to be fun, and then fun turned into a relationship, which I just don't think I was in the place and position to be committing and putting myself, because I really didn't know who I was at that point anymore. I'd committed my life to somebody else for so long. I was very lost. So kind of like what we're talking about when a young person gets in a relationship, they don't know themselves yet. There's beauty because you grow with the person, but there's also, you might not. You might grow apart because you might find out who you are and look at the person next to you and be like, oh, this doesn't make sense anymore. So I think for him, he wanted me for whatever I was, even though I feel like I was a shell of a person at that point. But I guess he still saw something in me that he wanted. But I was in no position to be making a decision about, do I want to be with somebody right now? I don't know where I want to be, who I want to be. I just want to know I need time. That was basically my whole thing.
Why do you think you agreed to be in a relationship with him, kind of knowing that you weren't really ready?
So one thing that I felt like he was like my coach. He was very
Did he have kind of like a parental
he had
vibe?
a very parental vibe. He was very like dominant and very like strict. And I kind of needed someone to like almost drill sergeant me into doing what I needed to do.
It sounds like safety for you, that need was really met, because like he sounds kind of predictable, and you know, if you can anticipate what somebody's going to do, that creates safety for a woman, you know, especially coming from something so chaotic, something that you had no control over. Knowing what's going to happen is going to feel really good, and it's going to look really attractive.
I think that it was a lot in the beginning, the predictable, and also just someone telling me what to do.
Kind of so you don't have to think about it.
I didn't have to think. I didn't have to take ownership. I was just like, this is someone's telling me what to do, and it kind of sounds like what I should be doing, you know? Even if it felt a little harsh at times.
Did it feel controlling, or did it feel like...
It was definitely controlling.
Okay.
It was definitely controlling.
See, this is kind of one of those tells where I think women can be really... can read things. It's hard to tell the difference, but a lot of women like will misinterpret control for care. Where they're not, you know, it's like, oh well, you know, they're just doing it for me. They're doing it to help me. You know, it's, well, he got me this phone so I could call him. Well, really, it's kind of so he knows where you are, right? Like those things are under the guise of care when really they're controlling, and then we just give more rope, and then before you know it, you start to lose pieces of yourself.
Yeah, I think he thought it was care.
Yeah.
I really do believe he really loved me. And I still have like love for him despite everything that happened. But I do think it was very much what he wanted always. And that's not a relationship, you know, it should be what we both want. And I think when he looked at me, what he found was, oh, I can mold her. She's like mush right now. I can make her. And I was a pleaser. So I was going to do whatever to feel the love, you know? And I think I was taken advantage of a little bit. But because of the same thing of not being a victim, I always said, but you chose this. Like you stay, you know, you did this, you chose this.
See, I have an interesting kind of view on choice, really. I don't think that's choosing it, because you didn't know what you were signing up for. Like, you know, like you have to have full knowledge before you can really consent to anything. Like if you don't know how to read control, you're not really consenting to it. Right? If you don't know your boyfriend can grape you, you know, and you just think it's another night, like then you don't really know. You're not really granting, you know. So, you know, I think when you look at choice, it has to be free from fear. It needs to be free from dependency. You need to have viable options. There can't be manipulation. You know, those, you know, and there can't be any intimidation. I think you need those 5 things in order for it to look like in order for it to be a real choice, you know. And when we're hurting and when we're broken, like we don't see things clearly. Like you're doing the best that you can. And it sounds like you did a great job.
Yeah, I'm really proud of myself. And I think that's half the things of like why did I not crumble, is like I kept not crumbling. And every time I didn't crumble, it was kind of like an extra boost of confidence of like, oh, I got this. And there's something so beautiful about knowing you can take care of yourself. And I think that that's something everyone needs to learn in this world, is how do you care for yourself, regardless of who even is around you, you know, and sometimes being pushed into such a darkness and such a rawness forces you and tests you to see, like, how do you care for yourself, you know? And
That's definitely one way to look at it. Is I think I think the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, will continue to put lessons in your. You'll keep coming up with the same challenges in life until you can overcome it. You'll keep facing the same people, the same problems, just in different bodies until you can overcome those things. And they are tests. They're there to they're there to say, and I think that it's always connected to your destiny. Whatever you're supposed to do, it's like you need something from this challenge in order to prepare you for what you're supposed to be and the gift that you're supposed to give others. Something about that challenge is what's going to prepare you, like, for your destiny and propel you into your future. You know, and not everybody overcomes that part of the challenge. Some people break.
I think a lot of people.
And you know, let me say, there's nothing wrong with actual breaking, because I've been broken many times in my life. But it's, do you stay there?
Right.
That I think, because we can't always control what happens to us, and like life happens to everybody. But there is a responsibility in how you manage that. All the hurts, like all the hurts that are done to you, you are still responsible for managing them.
Yeah, and I do think you're gonna have multiple breaks.
Yeah.
And those breaks make you stronger if you can get past the break. And it would be, have you looked into kind of like what makes somebody get past certain things and others not? Is there like a common
You know, I kind of always say it's resilience. And not, because not everybody has it. Like, everybody's capable of it. Everybody's capable of being resilient, but not everybody utilizes that. And I think part of it's luck, like what we were saying earlier. Like, I do think part of it is luck. Some people are dealt a better hand. Some people have access to resources that other people may not. But somehow, in like with faith and the walk of life, I think somehow, some way, it balances out where everybody's given an opportunity to achieve their greatness. Like, whatever your purpose is here to do, like, you're not just here because it's supposed to, there's no way out for you and it's going to go unfulfilled. I believe that whatever it is you're here to do, there's a way to get through it and a way to overcome it. Some people might have it easier than others, but there's always a way. And I think hope. I think when people lose hope, that is one of the telltale signs of when you can become married to their pain, and you can get into this really destructive, negative thought cycle that starts a self-fulfilling prophecy later on, where it's just like one bad thing after another bad thing. And then, you know, the way that you relate, the way that you think, what you're attracting is all very negative. And it's hard to get out of that feedback loop.
Yeah. I think spirituality, like the hope section, is a huge part of it, because I think I had to find that, you know? I was so mad, or just why, like the big why would this happen? Like, so horrible, you know? And I think just finding that you're not going to get the answers, but that there's just something more and bigger than is
it's key. It's key. Like, I definitely know that I don't know how anybody does anything without faith personally, like, or a belief in something greater than them.
Yeah.
Because if this is all there is, it's really easy to lose hope, you know? And I have to trust to, like, a higher knowledge than my own as well. And I think that gives me comfort, and that helps me put one foot in front of the other. Like, you know, reading scriptures, those kinds of things, that's peaceful for me. That creates peace for me. You know, it's a foundation, something that I can always fall back on. That to me isn't shaky. And I think that has helped me. Other people might do other things. I think it's all your own personal walk. It's all your own personal journey, and you have to find what resonates for you. But when people are in a dark place, you know, I've talked to many people that just never felt like they could get out of it. Just this oppression was over them. There was no light at the end of the tunnel. And it is always such a pleasure to see them come out of it. And it's just like, if you can just hang on.
Yeah.
If you can just keep putting one foot in front of, if you can just show up, if you could just get out of bed, if you can just take care of yourself today. Don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will take care of itself.
Yeah.
I think the one foot in front of the other is really key. When we start kind of looking at the big picture, it feels very overwhelming. It feels very depressing.
Yeah. So do you have you seen signs in your life where you're like, wow, it shows you that there's something more out there?
Absolutely.
So to me, that was it. Like when I had like an undeniable sign, it was just, it's hard to question how this could be anything else.
I feel the same way. Like I've had so many experiences where I'm like, I know that I know that I know. There's nothing that could ever shake that for me because nobody could make that up. Nobody could know that. The timing of it was insane. And all my needs were met. Not a minute before, not a minute after, right when I needed it. And you just can't, that provision and that peace that you get, you're being cared for by something bigger than you.
Yeah. Yeah. Matt and I went to India and we had a Buddhist ceremony in the mountains. And when we were going up to the mountains, we went by ourselves, and these 3 wild dogs followed us, came out of nowhere. And his girls were 2 twins and an older daughter. And the dogs looked like twins and then another one. And they were all like similar hair color of the girls. And they came with us up the mountain and sat with us for 3 hours while we pet them, cried, held them. And then when we were ready to leave, they saw us out and then disappeared.
Man, aren't animals just so connected to the spirit realm?
So much.
I can just see I look at my little babies, my little animals, and I feel so connected spiritually more than I do in church sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you can just see good. You know, I saw this cute little meme of this dog looking at snow. And it was just standing there just looking at the snow. And I was like, that's the beauty. That's the innocence, you know, like that's pure love.
I know. So I've had a dog with me this whole time.
Yeah.
That's Pip. And she was the girls' Christmas present. And we had her. So she's been my rock this entire time. And now she's almost 13. So she's been, poor thing, has been through it all with me. But I can't imagine. I probably wouldn't be this person sitting here if I didn't have her. Like that like just so much love. Like without needing anything in return other than love back, you know?
Don't you feel like your babies know when you're upset too?
Oh, 100%. No, she is 100% a service animal. Like she knows if anything, if I'm feeling, she comes over, she kisses me, she lays with me. She knows exactly what she's like in tune to me so much, to the point where, because also she was a puppy when all this went down, I carried her so much. She literally fits like in my curve of my hip, like her body. It's just like we're one at this point. So that's my next big loss that I'm like, oh God, I'm not going to be ready for that one. But
I know. I have a baby. She's 17 and she's been with me through all the things as well. And I just had to take her to the vet on Tuesday. And I was like, 5 years ago, they told me she only had 2 years left. Oh. So I did not want to take her to the vet ever again. Yeah. Right. But I was like, I have to take her in. I have to get her checked up. And I was so worried about what they were going to say. And she's fine. She's kicking along. Yeah. She's like 3 years out still. So yeah. But you know, I think nobody could ever prepare you for that kind of loss, right? Like it's, and especially like when they're getting older, you think about it. It
you can't help.
And I can't, like, you know, when you're so connected to things, it's really hard to do life without it. It's really hard to find yourself outside of those relationships again, because those relationships helped make you who you are. And so in a way, do you feel like you've had to, I don't know, find other pieces of yourself, other parts of yourself, learn to relate to yourself in a new way outside of those relationships?
So comedy was everything for me. That was the piece missing, I think, probably my whole life. And it was everyone's always like, wow, what a hard thing. But it was the easiest thing I ever did. Like the minute I got on stage, I was like, I get to be me. People like this. They're laughing at this. I just get to talk about what I'm processing in a funny way, and feels good for me. Like just, you know, I had a really hard day. So my mom has dementia on Sunday, and my mom told me she didn't want to live anymore.
On Sunday?
On Sunday. And she said she didn't want to live anymore, and she had no reason to live anymore, which is hard for you to listen to your mom that you're caring for, you know, say that to you. But empathy, compassion, I'm like, of course you feel that way. She's so lost in her own body right now, trapped. She's a prisoner in her body right now. She can't see anything. She can't tell a fork from a knife. She can't do any function for herself. Why would she want to be here? This is a terrible existence at this point. And so I could feel for her and listen to her. I could also feel for me and be sad for me at the same time.
You're a strong woman, man. Like you're the holder of so much of this. Like it's honestly pretty surprising how much death has surrounded you.
I know. I'm like, what did I do?
Like,
what did I do?
It's a lot. No, it's really
Yeah.
it's a lot, and it's like
Yeah.
that is not something that I like.
Yeah.
Most people don't experience that much of it. Like this, I feel like you need a Netflix documentary about your life.
It's a lot. It's a lot, and I mean, I hate this cheesy cliche of like, it gives you what you can handle, but clearly I can handle it. As much as I wish I didn't. I wish I didn't have all this death around me. I'm kicking ass at it. So, like, I guess maybe that's why it's here, because I'm not afraid to talk about it. I'm not afraid to share it and just let it be, because it is. It is.
Well, I very much like appreciate you being here, and I think that I want people to walk away from this kind of episode with hope, because any one of those things, it could destroy anybody. Any one of those things would be reason enough for somebody to not get up the next day, and everybody would understand that. But if you have a message to people that are struggling, people that are thinking of hurting themselves, people that don't want to see tomorrow, what would you tell them?
I mean, there's so much I would want to tell them, but it is this thing of the moment at a time, and you have to find what is your reason for being here, even if it's something so simple as getting another thing to care for, like a dog, like a cat, something that you have to show up for and be there is one. Purpose. People need purpose in life. So I said the dog or the cat because it's an immediate thing that gives you love back, and who's going to leave their dog behind? Like, who's going to do that? Like, you'd have to be so lost, and maybe you can't afford a dog or whatever, but donating time to a shelter where you're going to spend time for you need to be needed. You need to have purpose, whatever that looks like for you, and connection and time and patience and gentle and breath work and
all the things, yes.
so many things. But it's so for me, because I lost the girls when they were little, I owe it to them to rock out on life. They didn't get to, and that's super not fair, and I'm not okay with that. But I'm also not okay with taking life for granted.
Wow, that's a really powerful way, I think, to end this episode. Abby, I want to thank you so much for sharing that story. And again, I want to send my condolences to you. You have been through a lot of heartbreak. It's certainly familiar to you, but I think more people can and should talk about these things, because it happens, and we shouldn't do this alone. So thank you for sharing this story. And if I could say anything to anybody out there struggling, there is always hope. There is always hope. And even though today might look dark, there is always a light at the end of the tunnel. But you have to keep going to find it. Crisis only lasts for so long. I want to thank you guys for joining me for another episode of Pink Pill. We'll catch you next time.